My name is Alice. At 34, I'm a housewife, sometimes turned pest hunter, spending each year at our country home, which, with this latest change in climate, seems to multiply its insect population. I was once able to unabashedly scream, "Ugh, scary, yuck." But now, having crossed the age of 30, I stoically whack them down without a flinch. Impressive, isn't it? I've indeed become tough. Now, I want to share a story about how I confronted my own sister, who harbored an unrequited love for my husband. This was a few years back when I was still in my 20s. After a long hiatus, a middle school reunion was organized where I reconnected with Bobby, my childhood friend who lived in my neighborhood. When we first started school, it was Bobby, my younger sister Julia, and me who used to play together. But over time, Bobby drifted away from us, fueled by that typical boyish sentiment of feeling embarrassed to play with girls. In middle school, Bobby's family moved away and we grew apart even more. So when I finally talked to him at the reunion, I was quite nervous. But as an adult, you have strong allies. Yes, I'm talking about alcohol. Oh, my dear liquor. Fueled by the power of alcohol, Bobby, whose tongue had also been loosened by a few drinks, and I found ourselves chatting as if we had never been apart. After carrying the party into the wee hours, as we were about to call it a night, Bobby dropped a bombshell. As a kid, I used to like you, and it seems I still do even as an adult. To which, after a brief, "What's that supposed to mean?" I casually suggested, "Then shall we date?" And that's how our relationship started. It goes without saying that I laughed my head off when a sober Bobby was rolling around on the floor, questioning himself. Oh God, did I say too much? So embarrassing? It's kind of amusing when the person you like is unbearably embarrassed, especially when you're the reason for it. No offense to him. Soon after, we decided to get married quite smoothly. We visited each other's parents to announce our upcoming marriage and our plans to live together, which was scheduled to happen 6 months later. We thought it would be wise to live together before getting married to get accustomed to each other's lifestyle. Being childhood friends, our parents were already familiar with each other. But with no issues from either side, we thought it was a done deal. But to our surprise, a problem arose right in my own house. The incident happened when Bobby came over to our house to announce the news over a family dinner. "Hey, I'm home." That dispirited voice. My sister came back from work. "Bobby, what are you doing here, Bobby?" Looked a bit embarrassed, glanced at me, and I took over to explain. "Well, we've been dating for about half a year now, and we've decided to get married. We invited Bobby over today to share the news. I thought it was right for me to explain this to my own family." That's the moment I did. My sister's face soured as if she had eaten something bitter. "I see. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. Good night." Think towards me. It increased drastically on the first day when I got into the bathtub after her. The hot water had been drained. Hey, it's no big deal. There's always the shower. Lastly, I even have the luxury to joke about her petty attempts to annoy me. However, hiding my makeup and wallet before I leave for work was quite frustrating. I don't have time to go on a treasure hunt in the morning. I frantically searched while trembling at the thought of being late. Thanks to that, I barely avoided being late for work twice in a week, earning cold stares from my boss who said, "You seem to be slacking off with your wedding approaching." I won't forgive her. No, I'm the older sister. I'll forgive her. No, I won't forgive her. I was torn. At first, my parents didn't know about my sister's pranks, but they seemed to notice something was off after she started hiding valuable items. "Why are you doing such childish things?" My mother scolded my sister. Well, she seemed to take it as nothing more than annoying, but the real issue was my father. Shortly after my sister was born, my mother fell ill, and my father had to take care of my sister, who was still a baby, for a few weeks. He tends to favor my sister, or rather dotes on her more than me. Essence. He's like a mother who's had the experience of raising a child. I can't say I don't understand his feelings. I also found my sister, who grew up in tough times, adorable. When it comes to experiences where I felt outmatched by my sister, well, there's a story I remember from our childhood. I wanted to go to the amusement park, while she kicked up a fuss about preferring the aquarium. In those situations, Dad would just say, "All right then, we'll go to the aquarium." Mom was the type to ensure she asked me, "Are you sure about the amusement park?" I don't have bitter memories due to Dad's favoritism for my sister, but I think I would have felt quite inferior if Mom wasn't so considerate. Plus, back then, my friends used to say things like, "My older sister is the favored one." So I didn't think much of the imbalance in affection. Perhaps it's due to my inherently optimistic personality. I used to say things like, "I'd love to see someone who can make me feel down." But this time, Dad blatantly sided with my sister. Apparently, she has been saying that I stole her boyfriend, and in Dad's mind, Bobby is already the terrible man who toyed with both sisters. I could kind of understand why he sided with her, considering things like what will happen to the sister who is abandoned, while the older one can get married. Well, Mom seemed skeptical about this, saying things like, "Bobby doesn't seem like the kind of person who can do such a thing." She still listened to my perspective that no, it's not like that. Above all, Mom was fair, not taking either of our words at face value. However, Dad said things like, "I have my reasons for siding with your sister. I can't stand to see my youngest daughter, who is dumped, suffering. I won't allow my precious daughters to be treated poorly. You need to wake up." As if I've been brainwashed by Bobby. He won't listen to anything I say. He is a good father who loves both of his daughters, despite the slight difference in affection. But this time, I really wish he would listen to my side of the story more. As to being opposed to our marriage was quite a hassle, but I decided to push through. As in other words, I decided to move out earlier than planned and live with Bobby quickly. The idea was, if the problem was with my sister, then it would be good to distance myself from her. If I'm not at my parents' house, she can't bother me. That the problem ends there. That decision seemed correct in retrospect, as our cohabitation went smoothly. As time passed, Mom said things like, "I think your side of the story is probably right. You're an adult now, so live freely as you wish." Mrs. and Dad, although seemingly dissatisfied, surprisingly didn't say much. He probably thought that even if Bobby and I break up, I would be pitied, and he couldn't imagine Bobby going to my sister. He likely thought this was the best way to settle things smoothly. I felt sorry for Bobby, who was being painted as the bad guy, but I hadn't heard anything from my problematic sister, and I thought that everything was over. Then came the day of our wedding. As expected, my sister did not attend, and Dad told me it's not too late even now, encouraging me to reconsider the marriage. Mom laughed, saying, "I've also thought about how many times I've failed with your dad after getting married. There are many ups and downs in marriage, so be prepared." It goes without saying that Dad turned pale and exclaimed, "Really?" To the background, not everyone may have been truly happy for us, but under the watchful eyes of our parents, we got married. Then the following day, and our doorbell rang loudly. What you missed? Bobby and I sprang up. When we hurriedly looked at the monitor, unbelievably, my entire family had come to visit. Dad, Mom, Julia too. What's going on? Surprised, I was stared down by my sister with piercing eyes. I kept quiet, but I'm pregnant with Bobby's child. You need to take responsibility. What does that mean? You don't have a child yet, thankfully. It's best to have Bobby take responsibility now. You should break up with him, and Julia and Bobby should get married. You should give Bobby to her. While listening to my sister and father's side of the story, Mom looked confused and asked me, "What's going on?" Just in the corner of my eyes, I saw Bobby, still half asleep, follow me to the front door. What? My child? Sam. Finally, he seemed to wake up and shook his head violently at me. "No, that's not it. I didn't do such a thing." His way of denying was so exaggerated that it seemed like a scene from a comic book. "I understand. The way you're panicking is suspicious, so stop it." I almost laughed, but I kept quiet. "What do you mean by Bobby's child? How many months pregnant are you?" "2 months. If Bobby doesn't take responsibility, this child will become a child without a father." Isn't that pitiful? Hearing my sister's story, I suddenly turned to look at Bobby. 2 months. I couldn't help but laugh until tears welled up in my eyes. Julia was flustered. What are you laughing at?" "Oh, just thinking about something." "Yeah, 2 months ago." "Julia, we had fun last time, didn't we?" Yeah. By the way, Julia, how many packs of abs did I have?" Oh, oops.
Bobby and I burst into laughter.
My puzzled father and mother didn't understand why. What are you laughing at?" Our parents glared at him with eyes full of disgust, not understanding what Bobby was getting at. I suppose I'm the only one here who realizes what he's up to.
Julia was taken aback. I was on the verge of bursting out laughing. "Do you remember how many packs my abs were split into 2 months ago?" I seemed to have lost them. The only one who'd describe losing his abs as if he'd misplaced them would be Bobby. I've laughed so much that I feel like my abs are about to protrude. What are you talking about, Bobby? The correct answer is 0. I was about to say I knew it, but Bobby, paying no attention to Julia's confused face, solemnly confessed that he had no abs. At this, even my mom burst out laughing. It seems the one who makes us laugh wins this game. Question 2. You've seen my moles, right? How many do I have in total? What? No, when? Julia seemed confused about how to react to Bobby's strange questions. And rightly so. Causing such confusion and amusement is Bobby's intention. If she slips up, he'll probably see it as an opportunity for more fun. Instead of quickly denying it by saying, "I didn't notice," he persistently asks her various questions and enjoys the fact that she can't answer. But in fact, my mother was beginning to feel something was off with Julia and Bobby's relationship and their attitudes. Heck, isn't something odd for them to be this close? Such a conversation wouldn't be possible if they were actually intimate. Plus, it's way too embarrassing in front of the parents. The very fact that such a conversation is taking place proves that nothing happened. It seems to be Bobby's way of getting back at Julia by confusing and bewildering her. He was so amused, like a child who had just gotten his favorite toy. Who had just gotten a new toy and had a very innocent look on his face. What a scary guy. If you can't go along with his jokes, you can't be Bobby's wife. We even had to call an ambulance. I was more embarrassed being with him in the ambulance. I chimed in, unable to resist the urge to tease. I was running a fever and it was tough, and anyone who would want to procreate in that condition must have really weird tastes. You can even verify it with the hospital that treated him, Bobby said in a fading voice, which made Mom burst into laughter. Bobby, I remember you used to take off your swim trunks while playing in our pool back in the day. Let me see where you got stung, Mom said, laughing her head off as she energetically approached Bobby with waving hands. No, it's already healed. There's no evidence left. There's no way I'd show you. And for some reason, he didn't cover the relevant area but a totally unrelated spot on his chest and tried to escape from Mom's hands. Looking at this scene, it seemed like Mom fully trusted him. I was relieved. It seems like Bobby, on the other hand, isn't going to be able to breathe a sigh of relief just yet. Yeah, I can sympathize with that as a guy. He wouldn't lie about something so embarrassing. There's no need to confirm with the hospital. At that moment, Dad looked at Bobby with a compassionate gaze, as if respecting his dwindling pride. It was an expression I had never seen before. Ironically, it seems like understanding from the same sex came more swiftly due to the unfortunate area of the sting. I wondered if this fell under the phrase, blessing in disguise. Meanwhile, I addressed Julia, who was standing there dumbfounded. Listen, no matter what kind of silly lies we are told, neither Bobby nor I are going to get a divorce. I think you're the one who's going to end up feeling worse and worse. You may not believe me, but I really want you to be happy. WD. The moment I said that, Julia opened her eyes wide. Shut up, shut up, shut up! I've had enough. I don't like Bobby anymore if he's going to side with you. As Julia grew emotional and tried to lunge at me, Bobby swiftly pushed her away. I don't care if I'm not liked. It doesn't matter because I love Alice. I think of Julia as a precious childhood friend and sister-in-law, but I will never see you as a lover. Not now, not ever. If you continue to lie like this, I'll stand up to it. Because I'm Alice's husband, and I will protect Alice with everything I've got. I felt like I was going to cry. This was a side of him that I couldn't imagine seeing when he was muttering weird things like, I might be done for, the world is against me. After being stung by a bee, I couldn't help but think my husband was so cool.
Julia, if you're really pregnant, show us your medical history or something.
If it's a lie, you need to apologize to them.
Had her lip and trembled.
Enough! No one is on my side. I don't care if you regret it. But that Julia, her eyes welling up with tears, stormed off. I tried to follow her, but Mom stopped him saying it'll let her be. She needs to cool down. 2 weeks later, Mom forcibly took Julia, who still insisted that she was pregnant, to an OB-GYN. But as expected, there were no signs of pregnancy. Like there was no sign of any disease either. She was diagnosed as a very healthy adult woman. Mom and Dad apologized to Bobby. I'm sorry for the trouble and for rashly doubting you. We should have trusted you, Bobby, as we've known you for a long time. They also apologized to me. We're truly sorry for making you go through such an unpleasant experience. To be honest, I don't blame my parents because I hadn't told them about the worsening relationship with Julia. That they are parents who believe in their daughter without suspicion might raise some eyebrows from society, but it is reassuring for a daughter. After all, they are irreplaceable. They are my precious, one and only parents. Everyone makes a mistake or two. This time, it just happened to be my parents, strictly speaking. Dad, Mitchell, I seem to have suffered from his favoritism towards Julia again, but considering the great debt of gratitude I owe for raising me so well, I decided to forgive him. After all, without these parents, I wouldn't have grown up so happily, nor would I have met Bobby. My younger sister, out of embarrassment due to her exposed lie about being pregnant, got angry and said, I'm done with this family, and stormed out of the house. Before, our dad, who was always lenient on my sister, would have run after her. But this time, he remarked, it might be better for her and us to have a cooling off period. Said, after what she's done, it can't just be excused as a teenage crush. If she can't apologize sincerely when she comes back, she's not welcomed home. She made her stand clear. I can't imagine my sister, who was seething in anger, apologizing sincerely to us. Mom seems to share the same thought. In other words, this was pretty much disowning her. Fast forward 7 years. My sister did apologize and returned home once, but ultimately, she was officially disowned and kicked out. Because my sister, who initially seemed humbled, got heavily drunk at the end of that year and caused trouble. She snuck into Bobby's bed while he was sleeping and seduced him, saying, "Aren't you tired of your sister yet?" Bobby, thinking he saw a ghost, let out a scream. Let out a scream so loud it could have led to a neighborhood complaint. That scream woke not only me but our parents too, and that's how the incident got exposed. My sister, who was really drunk, rambled something like, "But you always look so happy with Alice." It's not fair. Can't you share a little bit with me? Of course, that's out of the question. We would never do such a thing. At this, I had had enough and flew into a rage. Bobby was shaking like a small chihuahua, while our parents, displaying an unprecedentedly terrifying expression, disowned my sister. Ashley, our dad, who used to be affectionate towards my sister, expressed his disgust by saying, "I don't remember raising a daughter who would assault a man in his sleep." That's a moment I will never forget. Once she sobered up, my sister apologized repeatedly, but Dad sternly rejected her, saying, "Actions you take when drunk reveal your true feelings. We can't trust you anymore." So tearfully, my sister left home. Thus, on the other hand, shortly after surviving this tumultuous year-end, I found out I was pregnant for the first time. Since then, I've been popping out babies quite consistently. Now, at 34, I'm a mom to 4. 2 of them are twins, so technically, I've only been through childbirth 3 times. They're nearly the same age, so every day is like a carnival at home. Left alone, the walls are filled with crayon scribbles like some kind of art exhibition, and Bobby and I, armed with cleaning supplies, race around the house on Sunday mornings. Our youngest is going through the terrible 2s, resisting clothes, toothbrushing, toilet training, etc. It feels like, what do you want me to do? But when I see the sleeping faces of my 4 angels, I forgive everything. My parents also, not just their first grandchild, but each of the continuously born little angels, seem to feel the same way and often come to our house to help with childcare. Bobby is also supportive of childcare, and thanks to that, he always gets his hair pulled when he gives piggyback rides, and he is now worried about his thinning hair. But he handles it all with a smile, showing how much he loves our kids. I'll keep it to myself that he shouldn't worry about thinning hair, because with his promotion and increased salary, he can afford a good hair growth treatment. Seeing Bobby troubled by hair loss seems interesting. After all, I want to see all kinds of sides of the person I love, for better or worse. The home is far from calm and quiet. It's extremely lively, even chaotic at times. But right now, I am very happy. I really have to go to work. So let's go to the amusement park another time. Enter the day before our daughter's birthday, my husband John suddenly canceled our plan to visit the amusement park. Since it couldn't be helped, I went to the amusement park with my daughter. Irritations PCSs. I was at the park with my daughter, Lily, and to my surprise, we saw John there, enjoying himself with a woman and a child we didn't recognize. Seeing John prioritizing plans with other people on such a special day, my anger exploded. And then I decided to take revenge that he would regret for the rest of his life. My name is Susan Mitchell. I am 34 years old. I used to work as a certified public accountant. When I was younger, I was a hard worker. But after giving birth, I decided to cherish the time spent with my daughter. So I've become a freelancer and I'm comfortably working from home. Our family of 3, including my husband John and our daughter Lily, is not particularly wealthy, but we're living a happy life. I met John when we were both college students. We were both part-timers at the same pub. While I was studying in college to become an accountant, John was attending a training school to become an actor. Despite both of us not having much money, we bonded over our shared goal of achieving our dreams, and that's how our relationship began. I passed my exams and started working in an accounting firm after graduating from college. However, John struggled to find success. After graduating from the training school, he was affiliated with a small acting agency, but the jobs he got were mostly extras. It was a difficult situation to make a living out of acting. Yet I admired his dazzling determination to pursue his dreams and proposed that we should live together to support him. From then on, I took on all the living expenses and even gave him $300 monthly as pocket money. I believed without a doubt that John's efforts would eventually be rewarded, but at 28, when I got pregnant, he gave up his dream. Now, he works at a construction company and serves as a worker at the site. I felt guilty for making him give up his dream, but I respected him for working so hard as the family's breadwinner. However, I had some complaints about John. It was about what happened from when I got pregnant with Lily until her birth. I had severe morning sickness and couldn't even eat properly. Even when I was in the toilet, unable to bear the sudden bouts of nausea, John showed no signs of concern. I couldn't do the housework, and the sink was always full of his eaten instant noodle cups and empty bottles. "Will you clean up after yourself?" I asked him. "Can you help with the housework? I'm not feeling well." "Hey, Schautsuntermix. Just leave it. I have to start work next week, so I gotta enjoy my current free time." That's as he was joking or serious. I got irritated with John's complete lack of will to help with the housework. However, John probably doesn't care at all, even if it's dirty. On the contrary, I'm a bit of a clean freak. I thought this was a matter of personality, so I should do the housework if I'm the one bothered by it. So no matter how difficult it was due to morning sickness, I was desperately doing the housework. Then came the day of delivery. I started having contractions and asked John to call a taxi. While sweating profusely and bearing the pain, we arrived at the hospital. Then John said something shocking. "It's going to take a while before the baby comes, right? It's boring waiting, so I'm going to head home. Let me know when the baby is born." He said it with an innocent smile, and I was at a loss for words. Despite me going through labor, which is a matter of life and death, John said he's going home without accompanying me during delivery. My anger boiled over at John's nonchalant attitude towards the delivery. I tried to retort, but John had already gone home and I had to face the delivery with a frustrated feeling. And after enduring the long 12 hours of labor, When I finally gave birth to Lily, John was unreachable because he was asleep. Excitations, when John arrived at the hospital the next day, he gave Lily a big hug and smiled with joy. Gosh, she's so adorable. Good job, Susan. Once you're discharged, let's go out to eat. Citrate anger surged within me at John's carefree words. Does he not understand that it's not easy to go out with a tiny baby like Lily? And does he think he's showing sympathy by saying such light words like good job? Once the anger set in, everything John did began to irritate me. I didn't want to fight right after giving birth, and I didn't have the energy left, so I had no choice but to stay silent. And may be unreliable and sloppy, but ever since he gave up his dream of becoming an actor, he's been working hard. Automation, although his income is low, I honestly respect his dedication to sweating it out from early morning to late at night. I decided to show my appreciation by planning a birthday party for John with Lily. I wonder what Daddy would like. Egg chicken, perhaps? What should we get? Let's get a big cake. Zay. Lily wants a chocolate cake. This isn't your birthday, Lily. Hearing that, Lily broke into a fit of giggles. Except comments. Now 5 years old, Lily has grown into a cheerful and lively child. She has large, adorable eyes just like John, and he's always saying that she could become an actress in the future. Lily, who's so cute, adores John and was looking forward to celebrating his birthday. And then came John's birthday. We had prepared a cake and a slightly more lavish meal than usual, but John didn't come home. In the evening, he sent me a text saying he was busy at work and would be late.
Dad is not coming home?
I'm sorry, honey. He said he's working. So let's do the birthday puddus tomorrow. But it's Daddy's birthday today. I held Lily, who was on the verge of tears. It was unfortunate as she had been looking forward to it, but there was nothing we could do since it was work. After putting Lily to bed, I waited for John on the sofa. Thus I was waiting in the living room, intending to tell him when he got home that Lily had been eagerly waiting to celebrate his birthday, but he didn't return until morning.
Is work that busy?
Oh yeah, I guess so. Response: when I called out to John as he arrived home, he responded in a surprised voice. Child. Lily was waiting to celebrate your birthday. Child response: really? I screwed up. I tell her I'll make it up to her by taking her to the amusement park next time. Response saying that John quickly left the house, watching him leave for work without even having time to rest. A feeling of suspicion grew within me. If he really had been working until morning, it would be a clear violation of labor laws. Also, considering the overtime he claimed he had worked, John didn't seem tired at all, which made me suspicious, so I called his workplace. And then I found out that John had actually left work at the regular time. It wasn't as much of a shock as I thought it would be. I was just increasingly angry at John for taking Lily's feelings so lightly. He was probably cheating. There had always been a lot of women attracted to the good-looking John since we were dating. And John, seemingly happy to be fawned over, had cheated on me a few times. I had accepted it because we were young at the time, but I was appalled that he would still cheat even after turning 30. I wanted to confront him, but I had no evidence yet. Lily loves John. If she found out he was cheating, our happy family life would crumble. In the end, I swallowed my frustration and didn't confront John at the time. A year later, Lily turned 6. She was going to start elementary school the following year and had grown up quite a bit. Lily, who still adored John, said she wanted to go to the amusement park with him on his birthday. I got the day off so I can play all day with Lily. Hooray! I'm gonna ride the roller coaster. That sounds great. Let's also ride the Ferris wheel. John and Lily were happily talking, and I too was looking forward to Lily's birthday. However, the day before Lily's birthday, John suddenly said he couldn't go to the amusement park. I have to instruct construction methods in developing countries for my company. The person in charge of my company got sick, and now I have to go. So we'll go to the amusement park some other time. Why? You promised we'd go together. You're a liar, Dad? Lily started crying out loud. Looking at Lily, John scratched his head in frustration. I can't help it. It's work. Stop being so selfish. For the atmosphere froze as John, with a cold expression he'd never shown to Lily before, bluntly spoke. You don't have to be so harsh. Lily was really looking forward to it. Why are you talking like that? Holding Lily close while glaring at John, he uncomfortably shifted his gaze and left the living room. Lily, your dad has to work tomorrow, so how about you? And I go to the amusement park together? Would you hate it if it's just you and Mom? I don't hate it. It's a date at the amusement park for the two of us. When I intentionally spoke brightly, Lily, whose eyes were red and swollen, softened her expression. After that, I booked tickets for the amusement park, and the next day, we left the house in matching dresses. I was irritated by John's selfish actions, but all I had in mind was to make Lily happy. Once we arrived at the amusement park and saw Lily's eyes shine, I felt relieved. As we enjoyed the amusement park, riding the roller coaster, the merry-go-round, and finally when we were on the Ferris wheel, Lily... Nalan! It's really beautiful. Indeed. Look, you can see the ocean over there. That's true. Isn't that Dad over there? Lily pointed down from the Ferris wheel. There stood John, lined up to ride the Ferris wheel. Next to John was a woman wearing a cap low over her eyes in sunglasses and a girl a little older than Lily. The three of them were laughing happily and looked like a perfect family from afar. Thus he quickly covered Lily's eyes. Don't look. I had no idea why John was there or what his relationship was with the woman and the girl. My mind was a mess, but above all, I didn't want Lily to know this side of John. It would hurt her to know that her beloved father was cheating and prioritizing promises with other people over her. I didn't want to make her sad on her birthday. That man looks a lot like Dad. But he could be someone else. No, it's Dad. He's even wearing the clothes he always wears. Lily, clever for her age, brushed off my hand and stared at John. Is this cheating? How do you know such a word? Like my friend from kindergarten told me, it's a really bad thing. My friend's mom cried every day. Is Dad a bad person? I was speechless. Then Lily stared at me and spoke. Mom may love Dad a lot, but I love you even more. If Dad makes you sad, Lily is on your side. Lily. Tears spilled from my eyes at Lily's words. It was always painful dealing with John's infidelity, and each time it was a shock. But I couldn't show my weakness and had been pretending to be strong. However, after Lily spoke, I felt the pain in my heart and naturally started crying. But all the while, Lily held me with her small hands. A few minutes later, after calming down, I looked at Lily's face. Lily, who was looking at me with a very worried expression, was a truly kind child. His anger exploded within me against John, who canceled on Lily's birthday, my precious child, and cheated. Lily must also be very hurt now, though she's not showing it. I can never forgive John for ruining such a special day, Lily's birthday. I swore in my heart to take revenge on John. The Ferris wheel moved slowly, getting closer to the ground. And when the door opened, I made eye contact with John, who was lined up. FY. John's soft voice was heard. Then John obviously crouched to hide from the woman he was having an affair with. He's walking towards the uncooperative John. John, good job on your overseas business trip. When I grabbed John's arm, he shivered. Hey, that's not a case of mistaken identity, is it? Of course not. You said you couldn't go to the amusement park today because it was Lily's birthday. But why are you here? And what's your relationship with those two? And upon hearing my words, the people lined up started to whisper. It's feeling uncomfortable from the attention. Both the woman and John clearly started to panic. Hey, she's my childhood friend, and because she's a single mother, I decided to bring her to the amusement park. It's sad if she can't enjoy herself, right? I can take Lily anytime. That's not right. You are Lily's papa. Suddenly, the little girl they were with raised her voice. He is Lily's papa? He always comes home to Lily's house. Papa is cheating with that woman. Thanks upon hearing Lily's words, people around started talking badly about John. When I glanced sideways, I saw some people filming with their phones. Ignoring the people filming, I confronted John. She calls you Papa? What's the deal with that?
Of course, I can't be her father. I am your husband after all.
Oh, so you're just friends with this woman?
Of course, we're just friends, John said, almost murmuring.
Oh, the girl Mindy was shocked and teary-eyed, but John didn't comfort her. That's a lie, she said. He always says he loves Mama. He kisses her and says she's the one. Why would he lie?
Hold up,
Why? Why would you say that? Mindy didn't do anything wrong. With that, Mindy started to cry out loud, drawing even more attention. John and the woman he was having an affair with desperately tried to calm her down, but it had no effect, and Mindy shook off the two of them. That's when it happened. Secretly back to the Chanel's, Mindy's hand hit the woman's face, knocking off her sunglasses and hat. Oh, isn't that Jessica Brown? people whispered, "Seriously? The one from that movie?" John's affair partner turned out to be actress Jessica Brown. She is a late-blooming actress who started to attract attention in her 30s and started to appear in films and dramas a few years ago. And the moment I realized that the woman was Jessica Brown, I understood everything. "Have you been dating since before we got married?" "Hey, what are you talking about?" An replied, looking confused. "Because when you were in your 20s, you were cheating on me behind my back, and Jessica was one of them. At that time, both of you were unknown actors." Looking at Jessica Brown's face, I immediately realized that she was the one John had been cheating on me with in the past. Knowing she was appearing on TV after having an affair with my husband and making a success of herself as an actress, I felt a bit irked. But I didn't know that she and John still had a relationship. "You knew that John was married to me, yet you kept having an affair with him," I said to Jessica Brown. She hung her head and started shaking. "Yes, I used to date John. But we're strangers now. I was being bothered by him and I'm annoyed. So I haven't been cheating." "What? What are you talking about?"
I said we would get married when you became more famous. You told me to endure it with my current wife until then, so I've been waiting without divorcing.
I didn't say anything like that. I can only think about my work right now. Don't bother me.
Jessica Brown dumped John without a second thought. She's been spotted by many people, and videos of her have been taken. That's her all for years, despite claiming to be single in public. If it were to be revealed that she and John were still having an affair, it would cause a scandal. If it were to be revealed that she has a child and was cheating, her reputation would surely plummet. She denied the fact that she was cheating and claimed to be a victim being stalked, but people around her had seen her happily together with John before the trouble started. Her lies won't work. Just a large crowd formed around us, and everyone was criticizing Jessica and John in unison. John's face was pale as he kept his head down. "John, I didn't know our marriage was such a burden to you." "That's not true. You're the only one for me, Susan. You don't need to lie to yourself anymore. Should we get a divorce?" John's eyes widened at my words, and he lifted his face. "Wait a minute. Divorce? That's not right. It would be unfair to Lily. You wouldn't want to be separated from Daddy, would you?" Then bent down and grabbed Lily's shoulder. Looking at John, who was begging her, Lily stared at him coldly. "Lily won't be lonely. Even if Dad isn't around, Mom will take me to amusement parks and play a lot with me. And Mom doesn't lie like Dad. Is that true? Didn't you say you love me? Was that a lie?" "It wasn't a lie. But I don't like a dad who makes Mom sad. I like Mom more than Dad, so it's okay. If only Mom is here." Looking at Lily, who was grinning and looking at me, I was about to cry again. I held back my tears and faced John. "That's how it is, so it's not a problem even if you're not here, John. But isn't it tough being a single mother financially? I've been earning more than you, haven't I?" Unbit his lip in frustration. As the awkward silence filled the air, the ringtone of a smartphone echoed. It seemed to be Jessica's phone, and she answered the call. After a brief conversation, her face started to turn pale. "Wait, please! Please do something. I can manage her. Please." She cried into her phone, then slumped over, looking defeated. What happened? The video just now went viral on social media, and my planned appearances in movies and dramas have been cancelled. That can't be true. Jessica glared at me. Ups and smile. It's all your fault. Plus, I was in a good position, and now all the hard work I've put in until now has been wasted. What are you going to do about it? As Jessica was about to hit me, the sound of smartphone camera shutters all rang out at once. Isn't it awful? Cheating, that's the worst. I used to like her, but now I'm disappointed. They'll go to hell. People who had been watching from a distance began to raise their voices against Jessica. Jessica was trembling, her teeth chattering in fear. I'm not in the wrong. It's not my fault. I won't have anything to do with John anymore, so please forgive me. Hey, wait! Don't you care about me? Of course not. I should have never gotten involved with you. But don't ever contact me again. Let's go, Mindy. Jessica took her daughter's hand and quickly left amidst the loud sound of smartphone camera shutters. Left behind, John was staring at Jessica, who had left with a pale face. His expression was still saying that he loved her. You can wallow in your sentimentality, but have you forgotten about us? That's not true. I'm sorry, Lily. You guys are the most important to me. As if we can believe that. If you're going to act, at least do it better. And don't come back home, we're getting a divorce. What? Why? It's my house too, isn't it? I sighed at John's genuinely surprised words. Apartment is under my name. I've been the one paying the rent all this time, so it's mine. What do I do then, Susan? That's not my problem to solve. But be prepared. I'm going to demand child support. Child support. I can't afford to pay that. You know how much I make, Susan? You're the one who's earning money here. You don't need child support. I lost my patience as John started making a fuss. Stop it. Lily is your daughter. You have a responsibility to raise her. Since you're not taking care of her, at least pay the money. Hearing this, John lowered his brows and wore a pitiful expression. But I need to pay for the apartment, and if I also pay for the gas and water, I will run out of money, and getting a new job is just too exhausting. Can't we pretend the divorce didn't happen? John pleaded with upturned eyes. I used to think his incompetence was endearing because I loved him. But now, there's no love left for John. Even his upturned eyes begging for indulgence only irk me. Don't be ridiculous. You can't pretend it didn't happen after hurting Lily. I can't trust you anymore, John, so don't contact me. I don't like you anymore, so don't talk to me. When Lily said this, applause broke out from the surrounding crowd. Well said. Such bravery for a young girl. Go on. We'll tell him more. The heckling from the crowd lifted my spirits slightly. Ignoring John's attempts to apologize, I left. I apologized for leaving the amusement park with Lily. And all that remained was John, kneeling on the ground, utterly stunned. Afterwards, John was fired from his job. The scandal became a hot topic on social media, revealing John's face, name, and workplace. His company received numerous complaints, disrupting their work, so they decided to let John go. Having lost both his job and home, I heard John has fallen into a depressive state. Lucky when I happened to see him at the supermarket, he looked nothing like his old self, disheveled with a full beard and long hair, wearing tattered clothes. I pity him, but I have no intention of stopping the demand for child support. I expect he'll stop making the monthly payments eventually, so I plan to ask for a lump sum. Furthermore, Jessica also received public backlash and has since disappeared from television. She is reportedly being bad-mouthed by people around town whenever she steps out and is confined to her home. As for me, I started a new life with Lily, and we are managing just fine without John. I thought Lily would be devastated, but she seems to be doing better than expected, attending school cheerfully every day. Sometimes she gets teased for not having a father around, but she doesn't seem to mind. It's better not to have a dad like that, she would say, showing a maturity beyond her years that makes me laugh. But to me, Lily is more precious than my own life. I vowed to do my best as a mother to ensure she never has to feel sad again. They look like the very picture of happiness, don't they? I guess if we had kids, we might have had a family like that too.
His grin is soft, as though he's looking at something dearly beloved.
At first glance, anyone might think Daniel, with that expression, is a gentle soul. But the reality is quite different. A small boy surrounded by kind-looking parents, frolicking with joy. It's a shame for the kid, but I'm about to shatter their happiness, and I'm going to do it in the most terrible way. All of this, every last bit, is Daniel's fault. If there's any blame, it should fall on Daniel, who betrayed me so cruelly. Their misery is all because of Daniel. My name is Betty Smith, a 43-degree-old homemaker. I live with my husband, Daniel. I met Daniel through a friend. At the time, I wasn't particularly interested in romance, but Daniel proactively asked me out on dates. Gradually, I started to have feelings for Daniel and we started dating, which led to our marriage. We never had kids. It wasn't a fertility issue or anything. Daniel was always busy with work and was frequently away from home from the start of our marriage. That's with his frequent business trips, and him being gone for days. We just didn't have much time to spend as a couple. Sure, if we had kids, we could have experienced the happiness that comes with an expanded family. But we were perfectly happy with just the two of us. Even without children, being able to live with the person I love most is more than enough to make me happy. I believe Daniel felt the same. But at the same time, I had my doubts. I didn't want to suspect Daniel, but he was indeed always busy. Another business trip. This is the third one this month, right? And this time, you're going to be gone for a week. That day, when Daniel returned from work, he told me he had another business trip scheduled. Point two, from what I could gather, he had to travel far this time, requiring a flight, and it seemed he wouldn't be able to return for about a week. This was already his third trip this month. Sure, work can be busy, but there are limits. What's more, he's been working overtime daily, to the point where we as a married couple barely have the chance to see each other. Daniel, it's really odd that you're this busy. Isn't your company one of those infamous black companies? Maybe you should consider a job change. We could manage our finances for a month or two. I'm worried your health might give in at this rate. Not only daily overtime, but also frequent business trips. Clearly, Daniel's company is not normal. At this rate, Daniel might break down. As his wife, I feel it's my duty to do something about this. With this feeling, I tried to persuade Daniel.
No, I'm okay. Work is tough, sure, but it's also rewarding. I'm sorry for being away so much. It must have been lonely. But working is important for our life together, Betty. Indeed, having a job is essential for making a living.
But does that mean there has to be a reason to push ourselves this hard? I started to question Daniel's words and the company he works for. Am I wrong? Is Daniel's way of thinking just common? Do I really have to continue my current job to support our household? In the end, no matter how much I try to persuade him, Daniel has no intention of changing jobs, so nothing changes and we continue to live our lives. As usual, our intimacy as a couple is quite minimal. I'm happy if we sleep in the same bed once a week. It's been this way since we got married. I'm sure the reason why we don't have children is because of that. Just in the midst of this, Daniel happened to have a day off, so we traveled a bit and came to a shopping mall in the neighboring town. Due to the holiday, there were many families, and every time I saw children happily holding their parents' hands, I couldn't help but sigh. But I sighed, wishing we could be like that too.
Stop sighing, he said. It's our day off. Stein, why don't we go eat instead?
Looking at the time, it was indeed lunchtime. We decided to go to a nearby diner after discussing it. As it was lunchtime on a holiday, there were many people. Sure enough, there were many families inside. A child, excitedly looking at the kids' menu. A child smiling, being fed a hamburger by a woman who seemed to be his mother. Every time I saw such happy family scenes, I couldn't help but think about why we don't have children, and all the unpleasant thoughts came to mind. I wondered if Daniel was thinking the same, as he quietly muttered while watching the families.
Kids are cute and wonderful.
I wondered what kind of child we would have had. As to those words, hit me hard. I might be taking it too pessimistically, but it felt like a jab at me for not being able to have children. I wanted children too. I wanted to give birth to a child with Daniel and build a happy family. All of this is because Daniel's job is too demanding. But if he had considered changing his job earlier, creating even a little time for us, we might have become a happy family like those people. As with those thoughts, I sighed at my own negative thinking. It's not Daniel's fault, I thought. Daniel is just working hard for us to live happily. Despite all that, look at what I'm thinking. Maybe I was so fed up with my own thoughts that the food brought to us didn't taste good. I felt like Daniel was looking at me with a displeased face. In the end, I couldn't even enjoy the rare outing with Daniel that day. Since that time, my relationship with Daniel became strained. There was something I felt towards our child, and unconsciously I started to distance myself from Daniel, but I had a feeling that Daniel was also somewhat avoiding me. I knew this couldn't continue, but I had no idea what to do. Because I didn't understand why things had turned out this way. Even when I tried to think it through on my own, I couldn't find an answer, so I decided to consult a friend who I'd known since my school days about the situation. My friend listened to my story sincerely, and empathizing with my words, they reassured me, "Betty, you're doing your best." But even so, I didn't feel any better. It's seeing me like this, my friend looked somewhat puzzled, prefaced their words with "I wasn't sure if I should tell you this, but," and then told me something. That revelation left me feeling dizzy. I couldn't believe it. If that was true, then Daniel. From the day I talked with my friend, I started to distance myself from Daniel. My friend's words kept echoing in my mind. A few days later during the day, I was walking through the residential neighborhood with Daniel. Suddenly, I said, "I want to go for a walk." Seeing this scene, Daniel murmured, "That's like a picture-perfect family." He added, "Maybe if we had a child, we could have been a family like that." Towards the joyful family, Daniel cast a loving gaze. At first glance, one might perceive Daniel as a kind person. But the reality is different. Daniel and this family are irreversibly connected. That happy scene is undeniable proof of Daniel's cruel betrayal. That's why I had brought him near this house today. I watched Daniel to see if he showed any remorse, but it seemed he had none. If so, then no one would blame me for dragging him through hell. The child is innocent, but all of this is Daniel's fault. If there's someone to resent, it's Daniel. I made up my mind to punish the traitors. "Yes," I said, gazing at the family playing happily in the distance. At my words, Daniel tilted his head as if to say, "What are you talking about?" and muttered, "Huh." He seems to be playing dumb even at this point. "What the hell is going on?" he said. "They and I have nothing to do with each other," he added, trying to sound confident. Sure, I must look like a weirdo for bringing this up out of the blue. But I don't intend to send innocent people to hell. It's because there's a connection that they're sent to hell. There was a tremor in Daniel's voice, or so it seemed to me. Judging from Daniel's point of view, he wouldn't have expected me to say such a thing all of a sudden. Because there's no way his actions so far have been exposed. I was truly underestimated. "Well," I said, "who knows? Let's just go home for today. We have no more business here," I said, taking Daniel's hand and starting our way home. Daniel, looking uneasy at my behavior, kept saying things like, "What the hell is going on? And why won't you talk to me?" But I didn't answer. The old me would have consulted with Daniel right away if I had a problem. That Daniel was a dependable husband to that extent. Well, now I realize that was just to keep up the appearances of being a married couple. When I got home, I didn't talk much, just had some dinner, and then shut myself in my room. Aiki to a nurse. Daniel, looking anxious the entire time, kept glancing at me, but I pretended not to notice. But late that night, I quietly left the house. Daniel was sound asleep, so he probably didn't notice me going out. I slipped an envelope into a mailbox at a certain house. That envelope was my trump card. I'm sure the owner of this house will be surprised when they see the trump card I've prepared the next morning. All of this is the fault of the traitor. I've just decided to punish the one who betrayed me. If there had been no betrayal, none of this would have happened. Happiness wouldn't have been destroyed. That's with each step I take. I feel a tightening in my chest as I realize I've come too far to turn back. I can't pretend none of this happened. I can't go back. The next morning, Daniel and I were having breakfast together. It was Sunday, but Daniel had plans to be out of the house for work as usual. Just then, the doorbell rang. Who could it be this early in the morning? Daniel, suspicious, got up from his seat to check the doorbell monitor. Then, the sight that spread before him made Daniel exclaim, "Why?" That to the people on the screen were the couple from the house we had visited the day before. A man, presumably the husband, his face red, spoke through the intercom. "Sorry for disturbing you so early in the morning. We have something to discuss. Could we come in?" Watching the man, the woman turned pale, exclaiming, "Oh, hold on, please stop. Let's go home. We can't trouble these people." Apparently, it was the man's decision to come to our house, and the woman seemed to have followed him, trying to stop him somehow. Why are they here? What's going on? Why had they come to our house? It's in Daniel's mind. It seemed like their visit to our house was not a good thing. When I invited the two of them into our house, Daniel turned ashen as if flustered. Ignoring Daniel, I made the couple sit down and served them tea. You saw that envelope, didn't you? Please come in. Let's talk face to face. As I said that, the envelope, the man's eyes widened. That's nice. It was their house that I had slipped the envelope into late at night. And Daniel, who could not digest the situation, kept saying, "Why?" The woman, who was eager to go home, and the man looking at both of them alternately, his eyes full of determination. The cast was now properly gathered here. It was time for the revelation. "You came here because you saw this picture, didn't you?" "Correct for you," I said, laying out the contents of the envelope I had taken out of the cupboard onto the table. The inside of the envelope were the same as what I had put into their mailbox the night before. There were a lot of pictures. Like in each picture, Daniel and the woman were walking arm in arm in the city at night, looking very cozy and friendly. Looking very friendly. Yes, they were having an affair. The reason I knew this was because one day when I was talking to a friend, she told me. I saw Daniel walking arm in arm with a woman in the city at night. At first, I couldn't believe what she said. That night, while Daniel was in the bath, I checked his smartphone that he had left in the living room. His password was so careless that even I could easily see what was inside. There were text exchanges with a certain woman. It seems that the two of them have known each other since their student days and apparently were close even before I started dating him. They seem to have drifted apart upon starting their careers but happened to reunite at a class reunion and apparently started dating from there. As in other words, while he was in a relationship and even married to me, he was fooling around with another woman. This is unforgivable. Just with this thought, I hired a private investigator to track their movements. Then the evidence started piling up. Moreover, she had a child. And by calculating backwards from the time the child was born, it was discovered that the likely conception period coincided with a week-long trip the two had taken. But all this while, I had believed Daniel's absences were due to his busy work schedule. But that was a lie. It seemed he was simply spending time with her, coming home late and frequently going on business trips. She, like Daniel, probably used the excuse of being busy with work to spend time with him, or to avoid arousing suspicion from her husband. This means the child Daniel once looked upon so affectionately was his and her child. When I explained all this in my own words, the man's face turned beet red and he grabbed the woman by the collar. It's not like that. Everything she's saying is a lie. The woman shouted out in desperation. But the presence of the photographs made it clear. At least the infidelity was a fact. The man's anger did not easily dissipate. Sexually, I'm divorcing you. Be prepared. The woman was sobbing, pleading, wait. And it's not like that. I let out a sigh, wondering what she thought was wrong. As I watched their dispute, I casually glanced at Daniel and noticed him breaking out in cold sweat, perhaps feeling apprehensive about the upcoming events. Of course, it wasn't just her who was at fault for the affair. Daniel too needed to face his consequences. It seemed the man was somewhat satisfied with demanding a divorce. His face still held the traces of anger, but he said nothing more and took his seat. It was as if he was passing the baton to me. Of course, Daniel, you will face appropriate consequences too, okay? Your actions are inexcusable. Your actions are a clear act of betrayal, and you've been fooling me for years. If it had been the old me, it would have taken a lot of courage to even mention the word divorce, because I loved Daniel that much. That despite knowing that Daniel cruelly betrayed me, that crime shouldn't be forgiven so easily. On top of that, Daniel is trying to neglect even the child who undoubtedly carries his blood. If Daniel hadn't acted so irresponsibly, none of this would have happened. That to even abandon his child to protect himself is unthinkable. Daniel has to take the minimum responsibility as an adult. That's why I can't forgive Daniel here. Rather, I need to punish him and make him face his sins and make sure he never disregards people's feelings again. That the woman he cheated with, her face red with anger, was sobbing uncontrollably. Daniel, shaking off the woman's arm, threw himself at my feet in desperation. Desperately trying to hold on to me, he clung to my feet. Eyeing heavily at the sight, I saw Daniel's shoulders shake. But even seeing him like that, I didn't feel the slightest inclination to forgive Daniel. Afterwards, we decided to divorce. Daniel was very reluctant, and we even had to go through divorce mediation. We had plenty of evidence of the affair, so the divorce was granted on the grounds of Daniel's responsibility. Then I demanded property division from Daniel. Of course, Daniel's parents-in-law heard about the situation and they were furious, and they wouldn't even let him cross their threshold. He's now working day and night to pay for child support. Or to the woman he cheated with was also served with divorce papers, and apparently returned to her parents' house with her child. According to her husband, her parents are furious, and she's going to be working like a horse with no time for leisure while they're around. Thus, we were able to properly punish Daniel for his terrible betrayal. And to be frank, there were plenty of things that stressed me out, and I felt quite worn out. Nonetheless, I felt a sense of relief having been able to administer divine retribution for the betrayal that persisted for so many years. Since then, I've moved and have been living peacefully in a new place. I still meet up often with the friend who helped me during that time, enough to chat about how tough it was back then. Is having experienced such a harsh betrayal, I've had enough of married life for a while. I guess I'll be living on my own for a bit. It's my life, after all, so I've started to think that's okay. Like from now on, I want to live for myself. My name is Heather. It's hard to admit, but honestly, I've never had much confidence in my looks. However, I do believe I'm a friendly person. Some might say it's a bit late, but I was able to get married in my late 30s. I thought to myself, I can't believe someone like me could get married. I didn't believe that someone like me could get married, but that happy life didn't last long. Who would have thought it would turn out like this? I was a woman who was never popular since my childhood. I wasn't particularly cute, and I didn't have any special talents that drew attention. Just average in both academics and sports, I simply wasn't the type to stand out. I met my husband in a certain diner. It was located a little away from the town center, but it was a discreetly thriving place, a kind of hidden gem. I loved that diner and went there often. It was a family-run business, managed by an elderly couple and their son. Think of myself, I would go there alone for a meal at least once a week, and over time I began to interact with other regular customers. Although I was a shy person, thanks to this place, I was able to become more sociable. But to put it simply, the son of the diner's owner, a man named Robert, was the one who would become my future husband. Robert and I gradually became closer, and one day he asked me out. "Are you sure about me? I'm not that cute, you know." I had never had any serious romantic relationships. I can't say I never had any men in my life, but when my friends talked about love, I felt left out.
"Oh, you're cute when you're smiling and chatting with the other customers in the diner."
By that time, I was already 36 years old. I was always worried if an old lady like me was good enough, but Robert just kept complimenting me. Once I realized there was someone who thought of me that way, I began to fall for Robert too. So when he asked me to be his girlfriend, I had no reason to say no. I felt incredibly loved. But from that moment, our relationship was on the track to marriage. Robert's parents, who are also the owners of the diner, spoke kindly to me. Then I finally got a marriage proposal. I couldn't believe someone like me could end up in such a happy situation. It felt like I was about to float off the ground. However, I would soon realize that my elation was nothing more than a terrible misunderstanding. By the time Robert proposed to me, I was already 38. When we got married, Robert, who'd been living with his parents, moved into a rental apartment with me. At first, I thought we might have to live with his parents. I was a bit hesitant about that, so I was really glad when Robert suggested otherwise. It's not that I disliked his parents, but after all, they were still strangers. However, there was something Robert discussed with me. He said, "Heather, I want you to help with the diner." Apparently, running the diner with their current staff was quite a challenge. If his parents were still young, it would have been fine, but it seems their strength started to decline. After they crossed 60, his parents seemed grateful that I would join the diner. But I had my own job, so when he asked, I was really conflicted. I work in an office administration job. About have a shy person, I had never considered working in the service industry. So the idea of working as a diner staff felt like a high hurdle for me.
I think you can talk to the customers just like you have been. That's all you need. Then that's all you need.
Hearing him say that, I made up my mind. I decided to quit my office job and switch to working at Robert's family diner, which my coworkers supported me, and I put my all into starting my new life as Robert's wife and a service staff member at the diner. Initially, I was very nervous, but once I got started, I got used to it quickly, thanks to the many familiar regular customers that Robert mentioned. Gradually, I became able to greet other new customers brightly and slowly started to gain confidence. Every day I work, I realize how diverse our customers are. We have regulars who always come in with their subordinates and order a lot of food, groups who come here after enjoying a round of golf as a regular routine, and others. And these customers accept me, making comments like, "Oh, you're a new staff member? Did you hire someone?" And/or straights, "Oh wow, you're Robert's wife. That's a surprise. You're quite a looker, aren't you?" Robert's parents even said, "It's nice that Robert got such a pretty wife. Robert, you're a lucky man." I was thrilled to be complimented as being pretty or cute, even if it was just flattery, as I had never received such compliments before. So that's how my work started to settle in. However, being a service staff at a diner is quite time-consuming. Since we are open for lunch, I usually arrive at the diner around 10 in the morning and leave to go home around 10 at night after dinner service. We do have one day off per week, but on that day, I have to do a considerable amount of housework. Actually, Robert's parents go home right after the last order is taken at night. So it's just us doing the cleanup, and I tend to feel tired after such days. At first, I managed to cook dinner for us when I got home, but it gradually became more difficult. I started to rely on supermarket ready-made meals more often. After all, Robert prefers to have a relaxed meal at home, so I think this is unavoidable. I thought that since we are a restaurant, we could just prepare and eat something simple at the diner before heading home. However, as the days went by, Robert began to talk less and less to me. Whether at work or while eating at home, he speaks only when necessary, and he's become rather curt. It's only been a little over a year since we got married, and he stopped touching me altogether. I finally said to him, Hey, you've been looking gloomy all the time. If you have something to say, why don't you just say it? Robert is the heir to this shop, so you need to take care of him properly. I was on the verge of tears hearing that. Was I really deserving of such treatment? I kept questioning myself. Was I in the wrong? I'd rather believe it's them who are in the wrong. I'm starting to detest working in this restaurant. Despite the fact that many of our wonderful customers treat me well, I don't want to quit. Heather, you're doing great today. You're also pretty, so I couldn't help but come again. I never imagined there would be so many people saying such kind things to me in my life. But each time a customer spoke nicely to me, my mother-in-law would say to me, Don't get carried away. There's no way someone like you could be called pretty. She had grown comfortable uttering such cutting remarks. Under such circumstances, the kind words of the customers became my only solace. Every day is a struggle over whether I should quit or somehow carve out a path for myself. One thing is certain, I no longer have any love for Robert. Trying to put it bluntly, we're just living together like a couple in name only, and I've come to think of my in-laws as nothing less than devils. I've started to realize that the good first impressions everyone gave were nothing but deceptions. How long will this go on? As I spent each day contemplating this, the answer was led by Robert himself. As time passed, Robert suddenly started coming home late. While he used to come home with me in silence, after cleaning up recently, he's been letting me go home first, and he comes home about an hour later. Curious as to what he was up to, I asked him after a few days of this pattern. Hey, you've been coming home late lately. What's up? Then to which Robert replied, without looking at me, it's nothing. I'm just eating dinner at my parents' place. Later, upon hearing this unexpected answer, I felt a wave of emotion stronger than sadness. It was anger and indignation. So he preferred meals that someone else put effort into. I was filled with an unbearable feeling. I was sure that Robert no longer had any love for me. At the same time, I made a decision to quit the restaurant. It seemed that to Robert and his family, having someone to add to the numbers was more important than who the person was. They just wanted someone to continue the family business. In that case, it didn't have to be me, did it? But I guess because I'm a clumsy woman when it comes to love, it was easy for Robert to approach me. He's thinking about it that way. There's no reason for us to be together. And so I decided to act. The next day, I worked at the restaurant, and as usual, I was scolded. But for me, it was just a matter of enduring until the end of my shift. I've been enduring until the opportunity arose. They likely didn't realize that I was just biding my time. But that opportunity came quickly. While I was casually chatting with an important customer, as usual, I was called by my mother-in-law from the back. "You're always loafing around. Are you just getting carried away? You really need to realize how ugly you are," she said with an exasperated look. But I immediately responded, "But the customers like me." I was even told that they'd be in trouble if I quit. At my cheerful reply, my mother-in-law angrily retorted even more. "Huh, what are you saying? We don't care if you quit at any moment. We think you're just in the way, can't you see that? If you can quit, then do so. We're just employing you out of kindness." She spoke so confidently. Perhaps my mother-in-law doesn't think I will quit so easily. After all, if I quit, I would lose my income and finding a new job at my age would be difficult. And perhaps she thinks that I won't quit because I feel bad for my husband. So I said to my mother-in-law, "Understood, I'm sorry." I spoke too much and immediately got back to work. That made the most of my first opportunity. In the end, I kept working at the store as usual, and my mother-in-law probably became confident that I couldn't quit. And before I knew it, I turned 40. Isn't my birthday? I worked as usual, went home before my husband, and he came home after eating dinner at his parents' house. There wasn't a single word of birthday congratulations. Normally, you'd want to say something to a husband who doesn't even offer words of celebration on your birthday. But it's fine, it's okay. All I have to do now is wait for the time to come. But then Robert said something that completely trumped my thoughts on my very own birthday. He announced out of the blue, "I'm going to move back in with my parents." After all, I just love my mom's cooking. I was taken aback, to say the least. Robert seemed to have no qualms about it whatsoever. But I quickly regained my composure and calmly replied, "Oh, is that so? I understand." From the next day on, Robert really didn't come home. Secretarial, I won't lie, I was surprised, but I reassessed the situation and thought it was just a matter of time and proceeded with my plan. I went to the restaurant as usual, talked with the customers as usual, and was berated by Robert and my mother-in-law as usual. Everything was the same, except for these last 2 days. Just on the third day of living apart, I had a person constantly calling my phone. It was Robert. "Say, what are you doing? Where are you?" Of course, he would be surprised. I hadn't shown up at the restaurant even an hour after my usual starting time. Eating or Rambio. I'm at my parents' house. I had something to talk about with them. I answered honestly. Robert was furious. "What are you talking about? Hurry up and come here." They're past the opening time. It was clear he was panicking. But I just said one thing. But your mom told me I could quit anytime." I thought I'd agreed to that. With that, Robert seemed utterly thrown into confusion. I may have broken some rules, but it's true I was told I could quit any time. If I've broken the rules, so has my mother-in-law. But the real torment for Robert and the others was yet to come. When I stopped going to the restaurant, They must have thought they'd be super busy and short-handed. The customers suddenly stopped coming. The regulars who always came to the restaurant didn't show up at all that day. The place was much quieter than usual. They must have found this strange as it was quiet during both lunch and dinner. Nobody came, not even the daily regulars. Something must have fell off. Robert seems to have called one of the regulars to check. The customer then said, just by me not showing up for one day, you get the feeling something's off, huh? I really underestimated you. Not just you, but the restaurant as well. Even though you had such a wonderful wife, how could you treat her that way? I don't want to go to a place that treats a fellow worker so horribly. I doubt I ever go again, but good luck. Robert, completely shocked by this, shared the news with his parents and started calling various regular customers. But as expected, everyone was saying the same thing. That's in reality, many customers had cared for me since I started working at the restaurant. You know, it feels like you've been looking tired lately. Is work being hard on you? I was told this by many people. At first, I was dismissive, but I couldn't resist the warmth of everyone around me. I suppose I was reaching my limit too. So I opened up about the things that were happening to me with Robert and his parents. And upon hearing this, my regulars were shocked. Really? To think they were like that. No wonder we heard strange noises from the kitchen from time to time. We thought the place had improved significantly since you started working. If you were to quit, we wouldn't come here anymore. It's sad to see you leave, but if you've hit your limit, we understand. Just let us know. They all stood by my side. Utley couldn't stop crying after receiving Robert's announcement of separation. Decided to quit and wanted to say goodbye to my dear customers and uphold my promise to them, so I told them I was leaving. This included everyone, from the regulars to those who spent a lot of money or brought many others with them. I simply told my story honestly, and indeed, they stopped coming to the restaurant. This was certainly a heavy blow to the business. But it just goes to show how badly Robert and his parents treated me. The customers made that judgment, yet only Robert and his parents failed to realize it. The theft of the crumb herself, the next day and the day after, Robert kept calling me. The number of customers had dwindled, and if this continued, the restaurant might need to close. He ignored his calls at first, but after a week, I reluctantly picked up because I had something to say. Please. I really am sorry. I want you to come back. I don't mind if you want to eat takeout from the supermarket, and if you're tired, you can take more days off. He was clearly begging me. However, I had no intention of returning to Robert. But I had one matter to settle, so I went to the restaurant during the mid-break. But his parents were there too, begging me to come back. Heather, you can come back, you see, we're old. Robert also said, you've come back. That's great. I did not return. I just came to give you this. Taking care, I said, handing him the business card of my divorce lawyer. Hey, wait. Divorce? What do you mean? Robert's panic was as if he had seen something beyond this world. But I didn't have the emotional energy to answer his question properly. that's what I mean. If you refuse to accept it, you can prepare a lawyer or whatever is necessary. At that, I left the restaurant. I don't know if he heard my last words, but the divorce went through quickly and I was thankfully freed from the oppressive control of Robert and his parents. Since then, all the talk about Robert's restaurant has been nothing but bad rumors. In fact, after a few months, the rumors themselves disappeared. There were whispers of unpaid bills to suppliers and landlords. People who spotted Robert and his parents said they looked gaunt, as if they had eaten something bad. Well, they never bothered to understand my feelings. In return, I guess people no longer wanted to understand them. On the other hand, I started living in a new apartment. Became single again at this age, but I have the ability to communicate with a variety of people, so I should be fine for now. I'm full of optimism and ready to enjoy my new life. My new life? It's such a headache dealing with my father-in-law. When sales are low, I punish him by skipping his meal. My sister-in-law, Yvonne, blurted out that she drives her father to work from dawn till dusk and even withholds his dinner. Poor old man, I offered. I'll take him in. It's with these words echoing behind us. My family and I began a life under the same roof with my father. As it turned out, my father was a god of fortune in disguise. Great! I'll be relieved to be rid of that deadbeat. My name is Sally, a 33-year-old part-time working mom with a husband and a daughter who is a kindergartner. My husband recently took over his father's business, running a small diner. Ever since he was a child, he looked up to his father, who would start working early in the morning and serve piping hot meals with sweat pouring down his face. He once told me that his father was more of a hero than any football player or superhero. That the steam dancing around Dad as he cooked was just magical. I'll take him in, I agree. This remark made me question his sanity. But I too saw it the moment I tasted my father-in-law's cooking. It was as if he was indeed dancing with a food goddess. Bitch, we were somewhat an odd couple. We got married in our mid-20s and were blessed with a daughter a few years later. Those were probably our happiest days. However, not long after our daughter was born, my father-in-law fell ill and passed away. His absence was a huge blow to my husband, who had already lost his mother. He even considered closing down the restaurant, but his staff and regular customers encouraged him. He's truly the only one who can carry on his legacy. We want that taste to remain. Only you can do that? Their words inspired my husband, and so he decided to face the challenge, hoping his father would watch over him from the afterlife. However, things were not smooth from the start. Even if he managed to replicate the taste, customers compared him to his father. In other words, he had to surpass his father to be truly recognized. Although he had taken over the business, it didn't pick up as expected and my husband was troubled. Then another tragedy struck. My mother passed away. Expect even recess at people, I was worried about leaving my grieving father alone, but the 1-hour drive made it difficult to visit him regularly. Seeing my concern, my brother offered to move in with my father. I was grateful, but also had mixed feelings. My brother has always been a bit careless. Adding to my worries was my sister-in-law, Vivon.
Oh, your husband's a high school dropout?
It's unbelievable.
She casually tossed at us when first met. A part-timer. You're a loser as a woman.
They even didn't attend my mother's funeral. Entry, apparently, my brother had quit his job to start a cafe and claimed he was too busy. When did you learn to run a cafe?
I asked what she nonchalantly replied. I used to skip work and hang out at cafes. I thought it'd be fun to run one.
This almost made me faint. And now, since they moved in with my father, they've started making him help out at the cafe. And they make him work all for free. When I asked her, what about you, Ivane? Shouldn't you be the one helping out first?
I don't work.
A man's gotta support his wife, right? What on earth is no? She can't even be bothered to include the OT in and not that lazy woman. What could my brother possibly see in her that he willingly supports her? Then one day, we decided to visit our family home on a rare day off. But despite informing my brother ahead of time, only Yvonne was at the house when we arrived. Hello, Yvonne, it's been a while.
Yeah, come on in. Don't make yourself at home. I'll just be watching TV.
Where's my brother?
Oh, he said something about sales being down this month, so he decided to open the shop.
Oh, I see. I was taken aback. Well, it's actually more comfortable without him around.
I was shocked not only by my brother's sudden decision to work, but also by Ivana's attitude. And your dad.
I walked into the living room, but no one was there. I thought maybe Dad was in his room, so I knocked on the door, but there was no answer. When I opened the door quietly and peered inside, I was lost for words. There was no trace of my father's room. Instead, there was a room painted in an obnoxiously bright pink color. It was so pink that it made my eyes hurt. Ivani, Dad's room looks strange. But could he possibly have dementia? I rushed back to the living room and asked Yvonne, but she was lounging on the sofa, engrossed in the TV. Oh, don't worry about it. Name M, a text, that's my room now, she said dismissively. But that used to be Dad's study. It was a waste of space, so I got rid of it. Books don't do anything for you. I got rid of it and made it into my room. Isn't it cute? All pink. I didn't say anything about her taste, but I couldn't stay silent about my father. Doesn't my brother have a room with you? Yeah, we got the biggest room. But I wanted a room just for me. So my old room. Oh, that's my storage room. I've been collecting stuff since I was single, and that's where I keep it all. In a panic, I swung open the door of my old room and was greeted by more blinding pink. How much does she love pink? Mom, it's so pink! Even for a little girl who usually loves pink, this was too much. That was how much pink there was in my old room. A mountain of boxes stacked up to the ceiling. And pink merchandise covered every inch of the room. I wondered if the floor would give out. But right now, I had more pressing concerns. Where is Dad's room? By the way, since my brother moved out, his room became my father's study. I wonder where my dad sleeps. I thought he must have converted his study into a bedroom. But to my surprise, Yvonne said to me, "He sleeps on this couch," as she casually dropped cookie crumbs all over the couch. What? As I was at a loss for words, I heard some commotion at the front door. Upon heading there, I found my father, his face pale, standing with the aid of my brother. "Dad, what on earth happened?" I questioned my brother as I supported my father, who looked like he was about to collapse. But my brother just shrugged and said nonchalantly, "He collapsed while helping at the shop." He collapsed? What about the hospital? "It's too much hassle. Hospitals are just a waste of money," he replied. "If you're free, can you help me out at the shop? Who's gonna help you, you dimwit? Get your wife to work first?" I found myself shouting before rushing to take my father to the hospital. After returning home, I confronted my brother and his wife. "He's been diagnosed with overwork." "How much have you been making Dad work?" That's right, my father had collapsed from overwork. My dad is now lying on the couch. It's pitiful to see he doesn't even have a proper bed. That sits there as my face turned red with anger. My brother and his wife were still grinning. "It's not a big deal. We just had him get up at 3 in the morning to help out at the shop. He had him get up at 3 a.m. to prepare for opening the shop, then he serves customers. In between, he does dishes and cleaning. And after 8 p.m., he closes the shop. Are you a demon or something? Isn't prisoners get breaks?" The anger kept building due to their atrocious behavior. But my brother didn't seem to understand why I was upset. We're letting him live with us, so it's only right that he helps us out. As I was at a loss for words, my sister-in-law nodded in agreement. "That's right. We are having difficulties because he's not being useful. Until on days when sales are down, we punish him by skipping his meals." He still doesn't seem to get it though. Oh, of course, he won't get a meal today either. What? Hold on. What did you just say? Punishment for not being useful? Skipping meals? This can't be real. The father I hadn't seen in a while was physically and emotionally worn out. Heck, with such outrageous behavior, I was so angry I couldn't find the words to speak.
Well, now you know, sister, so you can take him.
Left to hear. I didn't quite understand what my sister-in-law was saying, and as I was tilting my head in confusion, a duffel bag was placed in front of me. What's this?
This is all your father's belongings.
Wait, this is all of Dad's stuff.
That's right.
Oh wait, that can't be true. I pawed me Irians, who had always lived in this house, only has this one duffel bag of belongings. I couldn't believe it and looked at my brother, who was smirking and nodding. Is this really all he has?
So, we're gonna have the useless one leave.
Yeah, it's troublesome to live with him any longer. Since he's not useful, you should take him in, sis. Just as I was about to explode with anger at their outrageous behavior, a cheerful voice echoed throughout the room. Huh, Grandpa's coming to live with us. Yay! Isn't my daughter, who'd been occupied by my husband, had surprisingly been listening to the conversation. Still confused, I asked my daughter, "Do you want to live with Grandpa?" "Yes, I want to live with Grandpa. She's just a little girl. She probably doesn't fully understand the situation, but her words gave me the push I needed." I looked at my husband, who was holding our daughter. "Honey."
Yes, let's do that. How's taking your father?
"Thank you. Our family is by no means wealthy. Our ramen shop business isn't going well, and my part-time job doesn't bring in much money either. Upja job doesn't bring in much income. Our lives will definitely become tougher. Still, I can't bear to leave my father in his current state any longer." But Dad, I gently spoke to my father, who's lying down. Let's go home together." As I said this, my father, with barely opened eyes, said, "Thank you." It feels great to finally get rid of the dead weight. My sister-in-law threw these words at us as we were leaving. Ignoring her harsh words, we took my father and went home. I was filled with anger and regret. I was upset about losing my childhood home, and even more upset with myself for trusting my brother. "I'm sorry, Dad. I had no idea that my brother would turn out this way. Even though my brother has always been irresponsible, he used to be better. Sure, he had his rebellious phase where he clashed with our parents, but I never thought he'd stoop this low."
As my saying was shown, it's my responsibility for raising him to be this way, and I was the one who pushed myself too hard in order to help my son.
"You don't have to work anymore. We don't have much to spare, so we can't afford luxuries, but you can rest. But once she enters elementary school, I'll increase my hours. If possible, I'll even aim to become a full-time employee. There's so much more I can do for my father and my family. I'm going to work hard. Thank you." My father smiled warmly at me as I clenched my fist. And for a while after that, we had peaceful days. My father regained his health thanks to the much-needed rest. He now spends time with my daughter. My daughter is thrilled to be living with her beloved grandpa. Even though life was hard, I had no regrets about bringing my father into our home. He tried to give us his pension to help with our expenses, but I refused. Apparently, my father doesn't have much savings left. Apparently, my younger brother and his wife had been seriously milking him for money for living expenses. What's that about? Action. I guess that's why he said he was worthless, because he'd been drained to the point of destitution. It's really a ridiculous couple. Days continued to pass peacefully, but gradually changes began to appear. The changes came to my husband. Specifically, they came to my husband's restaurant. Really?
Lately, we've been getting a lot of customers.
That's a good thing, isn't it? That's prole. Well, yes, but during this spectacle, the hesitation in my husband's voice makes me tilt my head. It's great if your business is doing well, right? I think the taste has improved because I'm constantly researching, but I feel like there's something more to it than just that. What do you mean? I don't know. I have no involvement in the store, so if my husband, the owner, doesn't know, there's no way I can know. I wonder what it is. They talked while eating our chili bean stew, and thanks to his advice, this part-time worker was able to become a full-time employee at the company he wanted to work at. Really? As another female customer shared her relationship issues with her unfaithful boyfriend over hot sandwiches with him. Okay. Now she's the wife of an Arab oil tycoon. You're kidding, right? Well, actually, she ended up happily together with a new boyfriend. A legend was born that consulting with my father while eating our menu leads to a turning point in life. What is this person even talking about? I cast a skeptical glance at my husband who's feeding me this dubious information. Just then, my freshly bathed father appeared and I decided to ask him directly. Hey Dad, did you give advice to anyone today? Oh, well, I guess so. Perhaps because I'm getting on in years, people find it easier to talk to me. What did they talk about today? Let's see, a troubled father of a shut-in son and a university student who is about to be held back a year for failing a course. You're kidding me. Apparently, he's been giving advice. That much seems certain. Based on what he said, I didn't see how either of those situations could be easily resolved. I went to bed that night still half doubting the whole thing. But then, a few days later, I've got the investigation results, said my husband with a solemn look on his face. Alright, I'll listen to your urban legend. What is it? That the father of the shut-in son, who my dad gave advice to the other day, said his son has started going out and even got a part-time job. He was in tears when he came to tell us. Really? He said he talked it out with his son exactly as father suggested. And then there's the university student who was supposed to repeat a year. Well, if the decision's been made, he can't do much about repeating a year. Maybe he regained his spirits and got motivated again. He was able to move on to the next grade. What the hell? Apparently, he had failed a course taught by a very strict professor, which was causing him to repeat a year. But he went to the professor's office, passionately argued his case, and in the end, his paper was accepted and he happily advanced to the next grade. That can't be. I never went to college, let alone high school, so I'm not sure, but isn't that how college works? Well, whether it's accepted or not depends on the professor, I guess. And so, my father's reputation skyrocketed. By the way, there was a guy who came just to seek advice without ordering anything. How rude. That to sit in the shop without ordering anything. He must have nerves of steel. Well, your father didn't really give this guy any substantial advice. It seems the guy's situation ended up even more dire. So, in other words, yes, he is amazing. Not that it's your cooking that's getting the rave reviews. You really had to say that? Hearing the harsh truth, my husband looked utterly dejected. But I mean, if the food wasn't good, they would just order the cheapest dish or just a drink. Since they're ordering properly, it must taste decent, at least decent. Regardless of the reason, my husband's shop began to thrive. Of course, customers continue to come even when my father isn't there, so it must mean the food is good, right? Good job, honey. Just as everything was going well, an unexpected event occurred. A storm has arrived, namely my younger brother and his wife. This happened by chance when I took a day off from my part-time job and went with my dad to my husband's restaurant. Despite the fact it was before opening hours, the door abruptly swung open and someone yelled, "Give me back my dad." As they stormed in, my brother confronted me, venting with raw anger. "I saw it online. Your business is booming because of Dad's life counseling. Even when Dad helped at my place, our sales were terrible, and now we're almost going under. What's with this difference?" he demanded. "You were pushing all the work onto Dad. How could he give life advice while busy with that?" I retorted. Struck by my words, my brother faltered. At that moment, his wife stepped forward, pushing him aside. "We won't make him work anymore. He just needs to sit and give life advice. Look, my father-in-law would prefer to live in his own home, right? He came to pick him up, so let's go home," she said assertively. How unreasonable. They practically threw him out, and now they have the nerve to turn the tables like this. It's outrageous. As if we'd ever hand Dad over to those two devils. As I was about to respond in kind, it was my dad who stopped me. He put his hand out in front of me, indicating I should hold back. He then moved to stand in front of my brother and his wife, who were now silent, and spoke quietly. "Understand what you've asked for. If things continue like this, your restaurant will surely go under. So you should give life advice in our restaurant," my brother started. "Let me be clear," Dad interrupted. "Those who come for advice primarily want to eat at this restaurant. But your place, a cafe? It's no good, absolutely no good." "It's true," Dad continued. "Did you ever train anywhere? Ever train anywhere to learn how to brew coffee? We thought we could manage by watching some online tutorials." My brother replied sheepishly, "Yeah, that much is clear." Like your desserts, like the cakes, are also pretty dreadful. It's no wonder sales are dropping and you're on the brink of closure. But stunned by Dad's critiques, my brother fell silent. He tried to argue but couldn't find the words. "Don't disrespect your works," Dad chided him. "Yes," my brother replied, crestfallen. "How can you expect to have any customers if you're this casual about everything?" Conversations are based on customers coming to enjoy a good meal. No one would come to your place since it's so dreadful. The statement must have been spot on. My brother was at a loss for words. "Nobody would come for life advice either," he added. "Go back to basics and train properly," I advised. "I won't lend a hand to you two who take everything for granted," he scolded them. With my brother and his wife not being able to reply, Dad shouted once more, "Don't disrespect your work." After that, my brother and his wife left, unable to keep up with my father's momentum. So what happens next? Well, they say that giving advice without any food makes things even worse, right? It seemed that my brother's restaurant closed down without much ado. That consultants the debt they incurred when opening the place not only remained unpaid but continued to pile up beyond their capacity to repay. My dad, in his kindness, gifted them our old family home as a parting gift, but even selling that couldn't cover their debt. It seems they're now living a life of extreme poverty in a rundown apartment. It turns out that not only my brother, but his wife too, were in debt. I can only imagine the hardship those two debt-ridden souls must be going through. In contrast, my family and I are leading a prosperous life. My husband's restaurant is thriving, and I've quit my part-time job to help him out. It's pretty tough, but it's a joy to see my husband working so hard up close. Our spry dad helps us out by taking care of our daughter when we're busy. He doesn't give life advice much anymore, but customers still come, which makes us really happy because it means my husband's efforts are being recognized. Today, my husband is again cooking expertly in every way.